There's no denying the fact that the policies of the past 2.5 years have made a bad situation worse. For 2.5 years, the Democrats completely dominated this town. They got everything they wanted. And what happened? Unemployment has hovered around 8% for 32 months. The so-called misery index is worse than it's been in more than 25 years. Actually, unemployment's hovered around 9%. Consumer confidence is at levels last seen during the height of the financial crisis. But if there's one number that really stands out, it's this: 1.5 million. That's the number of fewer jobs we now have in this country since the day President Obama signed his signature jobs bill into law. These are just some of the numbers that all of us, Republicans and Democrats, read about every single day. But it's not the numbers that compel us to action. It's the stories that lie behind them. It's the millions of men and women who've seen their dreams shattered, their lives upended, and their potential unfulfilled. And what Republicans have been saying is that if we truly want to help improve the situation we're in, if we really want to turn this ship around, then we need to learn from our mistakes and take a totally different approach. We know what policies haven't worked. We've tried that. What sense does it make to try those same policies again and again? And that's why Republicans in the House and the Senate have approach. Democrats may control the White House, they may control the Senate, but for the past 10 months, Republicans in the other half of Congress have done their best to correct the mistakes and excesses of the previous 2.5 years and set us on a different course. And they've done something else that Democrats have not done over the past few years. Week after week, the Republican majority in the House of Representatives has been passing bills that actually have a chance of gaining bipartisan support and becoming law. They're actually trying to do something. Unlike the President and the Democrats who run the Senate, House Republicans are designing legislation to pass rather than fail. They want to make a difference rather than make a point. And the only thing keeping these bills from becoming law is that the Democrats in the Senate won't take them up. Now, we know the President's strategy. His so-called jobs bill has one purpose, and only one: to divide us. Just this morning, I read a story that quoted some Democratic operative almost bragging about the fact that they don't expect any of the legislation the President's been out there talking about on the bus tour to pass. They openly admit these bills are designed to fail. It's not exactly a state secret that Republicans, and yes, some Democrats, don't think we should be raising taxes right now on the very people we're counting on to create the jobs we need to get us out of the jobs crisis. And yet the one thing that every single proposal Democrats bring to the floor has in common, it does just that. So the Democrats' plan is to keep putting up bills on the floor they know ahead of time we'll vote against, instead of trying to solve the problem. And they don't even hide it. The President's top strategist actually issued a memo a few weeks ago saying the President would use this legislation not as a way to help people, but as a way to pummel Republicans. Meanwhile, House Republicans have passed bill after bill after bill that are actually designed to do something. On March the 31st, they passed H.R. 872, the Reducing Regulatory Burdens Act. It got 57 Democratic votes. 57 Democratic votes in the House. A bipartisan bill that could pass and become law. On April 7th, they passed H.R. 910, the Energy Tax Prevention Act. It got 19 Democratic votes. And on and on. There are 15 of these, Madam President, 15 of them that have passed each with significant Democratic support. One with 33, one with 28, one with 21, one with 23, one with 16, one with 10, one with 47 votes. So there are 15 of these bills that have passed the House with bipartisan support. And here in the Senate, we don't take any of them up. because we're busy taking up bills that everybody knows are not going to pass. This week over in the House, they're going to pass 4 more bills making it easier to hire out-of-work Americans. And just last week, House Republicans passed a bill that would repeal a law requiring the IRS to withhold 3% of future tax payments from any company that does business with the government. A bill the President himself said he'd be willing to sign into law. 170 Democrats voted for it. Why don't we pass it here in the Senate? The President's waiting to sign it. This is just the latest example of a simple bipartisan bill that struggling businesses are begging us to pass. But the Senate Democrats are holding it up right now because it doesn't fit the storyline. Now, I'm not saying we have to vote on every one of the bills that the House passed just as they are. There's an amendment process for that. But why not take them up? Every one would help create jobs, and none would raise taxes. That's what we call compromise. It's called finding common ground. And it's how the American people expect us to legislate. What we're witnessing in Washington right now is 2 very different styles of governance. A Republican majority in the House that believes we should actually do something about the problems we face, and which has put together and actually passed bipartisan legislation that would help address those problems. And a Democratic majority here in the Senate that's teamed up with the White House on a strategy of doing nothing. Nothing. All for the sake of trying to score political points and spread the blame for an economy that their own policies have cemented into place as they look ahead to an election that's still more than a year away. Now, the President's economic policies have failed to do what he said they would, getting legislation to fail. Americans are actually tired of failure. So Republicans are inviting Democrats to join us in succeeding at something, anything around here that would make a difference. I guess to sum it up, Madam President, what we're saying is this: why don't we quit playing the political games? The problems we face are entirely too serious to ignore. Let's take up bipartisan bills House Republicans have already passed and actually do something. There is no better time to tackle the problems we face than now. Let's not squander this moment because some political strategist over at the White House is enamored with their own reelection strategy. Let's take advantage of this moment when the 2 parties share power in Washington to act. As I often note, it's only when the 2 parties share power that they can share the credit and the blame. That's why some of the biggest legislative achievements have taken place at moments like this. And that's why I've been calling on Democrats in Washington privately and publicly for the past year to follow the example of those Congresses and those presidents before us who were wise enough to seize an opportunity like this one for the good of the country. We face many serious crises as a nation. We know how to solve them. Let's not let this moment pass us by. Now, Madam President, on another issue,